Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Tea Time with Meoni. This is the video series where I sit down and talk about just random stuff that's happening either with me, in real life, in the game, with the channel. But this time we're focused around the future of Final Fantasy XIV and in particular, the lull of content. Now this week, specifically, I've got a special guest. Not only is he my statics raid leader, he's also a very good friend that I've known for over 20 years now, and we grew up together pretty much in school. So, hi James, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, dude. I've decided to do this. It's a long time coming. I haven't had a guest on this before. It's not a podcast. Still, still saying it's not a podcast. For anyone who still believes me out there, I don't know. I'm not sure I believe myself at this point. Yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to catch up with you and just get some other opinions because some people don't like mine, and that's fine. So,
yeah, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, I suppose.
That's true. Entitled is the key word there in this community for sure. You hit it on the nail there. So how's it been going then? How have you been dealing with the kind of gap in content, let's call it? Because we're all waiting for that July drop, aren't we, of 5.3?
Well, I've been playing other games mostly, as well as you know, playing through New Game Plus.
Yeah, that is something I want to talk about with you specifically. But yeah, playing other games, nice and healthy. More people could do with doing that instead of hitting the forums, I think. Complaining about delays in a world situation like this, kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, you've got to expect there are going to be delays, haven't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, anybody who thinks they can just wave a magic wand, can you even imagine working at home if you were programming a game?
Oof.
Like, can you even imagine?
Well, can you imagine if you didn't have the computer at home to do it?
Yeah, so like, there's some guy at home, there he is, and he's still on like, I don't know, Windows 7 and all these like development tools that they use at the office, like Windows 10 or whatever, or I don't know, I presume they would, right? They wouldn't use Macs, would they? Unless it was a graphics team, maybe. I
don't know, depends. I mean, some of them, the server software would use Linux, so you'd need integration with that, wouldn't you? Because they have their own test servers and everything they have to push in.
Yeah. So if we do get 5.3 in July, right, which is very optimistic, and the only reason we have that date is from the 58th letter from a producer live when they mentioned roughly like that sort of date. If we do get it, there's no guarantees that it will be in any state that's actually, kind of complete. Let's be honest.
I think main scenario is done. It's all very done. The rest of it is who knows.
Yeah, apparently a lot of the budget has gone into the MSQ this time around. That's from, I think they said they took it from the idea that there's no deep dungeon this time, and also from the lack of an extra dungeon per patch cycle, right? If I remember.
Yeah, as well as the budget from the trial, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Because we're getting a normal and an extreme mode of the penultimate fight of Shadowbringers, supposedly.
Yes, instead of the sapphire or diamond weapon, whichever one it was.
He was more blue than anything. I'm gonna place my bets on it being sapphire that they previewed. But yeah, so what do you feel about that? Do you reckon we will actually get a sapphire trial, and that's just sort of kind of like a filler story to do with the orphans before we get that, or will there not be a trial because of that particular character involved? Or
well, I mean, if you read, it's a lot of speculation that one of the weapons wasn't going to be a trial because they don't fight him in the original, isn't it? Well, you'll know more about that than me.
What, in Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay. That makes some sense.
Or it could literally be like a solo trial, like we had with Xenos, where you get beaten or something like that.
Well, maybe we save the pilot this time. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it would be a solo duty where you actually end up saving one of the orphans and bring it onto our side. I say our side, but it's like his side more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the interesting one is Sid's there.
Yeah, that little clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, it's a picture actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, he seems to be popping up everywhere at the moment, doesn't
Yeah, resistance weapons, there he is. In fact, we're stood on Gangos Isle. I had to ask you, do you want to film on Gangos Isle? And you're like, what's Gangos Isle? It's like, oh, yeah, you know, the place we went for 5 minutes to do the first stage of the new relic weapon.
he? Yeah, I literally went there and left and I haven't been back since.
Yeah, you've not got any of your alt weapons yet, have you? Simply because it's just not a thing that you want to do.
Well, I only raid on my Black Mage, so the rest of
Currently?
it. Yes.
Touchwood.
Yeah, it's going well.
Dear. So most of your time, you've admitted that you've spent a lot of time in New Game Plus. Now, from my perspective, New Game Plus, because it offers no direct reward, like no achievement, no title, no extra glamour, literally nothing, other than the experience of playing through it again, are you the sort of person who likes recap, or do you genuinely just not remember the process that happened before? How are you so addicted to it, is my question.
I'm a story freak. I do it a lot with a lot of TV channels and everything I watch, where you watch all the way through before you start again. I do it with, as you know, I do it with Ruby as well.
That's right, yeah, and other things. Yeah, I noticed, because you have like the box set of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well, don't you?
Yeah, I binge that a lot.
You've been through that. I suppose it's kind of like, maybe if it got to the point where, I mean, I'm probably nearly at that, where I could probably start Stormblood storyline onwards again, or maybe even Heavensward, because I don't remember all of the events as clearly as I should, especially when people are like, hey, you remember when such and such said this? And it's like, no, I don't. It's like, is it important? Yes, that's the reason that this character is doing this. It's like, oh, I might have to do that. That's probably the only reason I'd probably reach towards that, but I don't see what the difference between me just watching someone else play through it, either on YouTube as like a big movie, because some people have been cutting those cutscenes together as just a big movie rather than people like me playing the game. I don't know. Is that lazy? I don't know. How much of New Game Plus is as you remember it? Is it as good as you remember?
Yeah, actually. Surprisingly better, because you don't always pick up on all the little hints you get in the first time you play through it.
Okay. So like, what little side things that people say? I know a lot of the NPCs you could talk to directly, and they had like pieces of dialogue. A lot of the time I wouldn't bother talking to the NPCs, so I did miss out on quite a bit of that stuff. Have you found that fleshes out some of the reasoning of decisions of certain characters? I mean, you've played all the way from the first possible timestamp, right, in New Game Plus.
So. I just finished Innocence on New Game Plus.
Oh wow, really? You've caught up pretty quickly. I say pretty quickly, but that's taken you a couple of months, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah, on and off. Yeah. I mean, the only bad point, obviously, is the side quests aren't in it, so you don't get the whole lore of the world. Like when we did Shadowbringers, we literally picked up every side quest.
That's true. I didn't pay attention to all of those side quests, I'll be honest. I did them, but some of them were a little bit like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to skip this, I'm going to hand this in, I'm going to take my EXP, and I'm going to run at that point.
Yeah, I actually read them all, and it really did flesh out the whole lore run, and especially in Calusia.
Yeah, the Shadowbringers ones? Oh, yeah, I was talking like Stormblood. A lot of like in Yangsha, for example, or Yangtze, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. I've always called it Yangsha. A lot of those ones, there's like a couple of good ones, and then the rest are kind of like, yeah, I'm not gonna bother with this stuff, you know. But yeah, when it came to Shadowbringers, some of my favorite side questing in the game is all to do with the Talos and the whole the dock and everything, and the stoneworks. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I felt that there was less side quests this time around, but that might be because I actually enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was like, God, these drag on, there's too many. Like, especially in the Fringes. Is it the Fringes? With Yananta, right? That stuff. Oh my God. I think there's still a few quests I haven't done there, actually, now I remember. I think that's the only zone left for me to bother to complete. But I love story as much as the next person, but it wasn't quite as fun as more recently with Shadowbringers. There was a lot more cutscenes in them as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's a lot more cutscenes, and a few of them are even voiced, if I remember rightly.
I think there was like one or two, yeah. Especially when it came to, again, the stuff around Wright, is it? Is it the village of Wright?
Yeah.
Yeah, that place is fantastic. If people watching this or listening haven't actually done the side quests in Shadowbringers, because you probably didn't like them in the previous zones, and you're just like, yeah, I'll do them on my alt someday. Go and do them, because they're surprisingly good in this expansion.
Yeah, especially, the right ones were brilliant.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them.
A lot more detail, and there's some stuff that you wouldn't really understand from the point of, it's not China's, is it? Is it China's? Oh my god, I might have got his name right. The guy who...
China.
Is it China's? The main guy, yeah. The guy who's like the previous Stoneworks guy. That's right. I think that's his name. He has some interesting backstory if you do those quests. That's all I'm going to say. It's worth doing. But yeah. So how are you feeling about 5.3? Now it's actually on paper. Now we actually sat there because you were there with me whilst I was making that summary video the previous week. And we sat down and we were like, okay, this is going to be full of nothing because they haven't been able to provide much information because of the COVID situation. But were you as surprised as me?
Yeah, surprisingly a lot more content than I was expecting.
Now, obviously, all of that stuff isn't coming in 5.3. I mean, it'll be 5.32, 5.35 or whatever. But it was quite interesting. The fact that not only are we getting essentially a new Eureka, even though they really don't want people to call it that. Which,
I liked Eureka, so we're all right.
Oh, you see, this is the problem. I've got someone on today's video that actually likes Eureka as much as me. And most people in the comment section are like, how can you like Eureka? Are you a sadist? I'm like, I guess, maybe.
Well, it's just something to relax and do. Right? It's all about the grind, isn't it?
Exactly. It's all about that grind. You sit there, you have a cup of coffee, or a cup of tea, and your tea goes cold because you're just watching YouTube videos or whatever, or you're messing around, you're listening to music. Honestly, Eureka was like a rediscovery of the metal scene for me, because for so long I just hadn't listened to music in the past few years, like the past decade, right? I had severely just neglected my musical passion, because it's something that I used to love. I used to listen to all the latest stuff. So it's kind of like my way of catching up, and I loved every minute of it. Now, if you had no other entertainment, if you were sat there with nothing but the in-game sound, I think you'd probably have a different opinion, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
I mean, we were sat there some nights and we would talk with each other, or we would like set little goals out, or we would have a joke. But there are some people who perhaps don't have that, and that's something I neglect. Is I think that people have Discord servers that they hang out with their FCs or statics or whatever, but not everybody has that, and it's a different kind of content. I think at that point, it would be
if all you do, it's like when we did the books and that, when we was doing the books for the original Relic on your own, which was just grindy because we're just literally doing nothing.
Oh my goodness! I remember. You remember Mega, right? Yeah. Megadeth was a member of the FC back in the day, and I remember we were doing what were we doing? We were like fate spamming or something. I can't remember. It was difficult for me because he's the sort of person who really hates a grind. So the immediate danger there is that he is going to like make this more painful than perhaps it would be ordinarily. Like, I love the guy, I love him to death, but it was like, how many more is there to do? What have we got to do next? It's like, dude, just we'll get to that bit when we get to that bit. We just got to keep grinding. And I think for some reason it's built into my mind from playing way too many RPGs and just games in general over the years where there's been grind involved, because it's always been something nice at the end, even if it's something crap like an achievement point. I've always gone for a title. Oh my god, titles. Titles. I've not been chasing them as much in this game as I did with like World of Warcraft and stuff. But I remember, for example, in WoW, because it's the only thing I can really reference to right now. Now I think about it, there's a specific title you only get if you defeat the optional boss in this raid series with the item level, the original item level appropriate for it, and not over a certain item level. But it has to be like the 10-man gear. You can't use the 25-man variant gear, which was out at the time, to make it. It basically was making it harder and basically synced you to that. It was kind of like level sync, but you'd still be, you know, of the thing.
Yeah.
And you also had to be the exact level as well. So you had to create an ult, right? That's the thing. You had to create an ult, then you had to level it to level 80, and then you had to gear it in this stuff by doing basically the normal content or get somebody higher to boost you through that stuff, which is what we did. And then you've got to find a raid night to actually do this. It was like forming a static for just a title. And we did that. Yeah. There was no mount involved in that. There was nothing. It was like a trinket that would be useful for doing more of the same stuff. But once we got that title, I think it was Herald of the Titans or something like that. It's one of the rarest things that I knew of at the time to get in that game. But it was enough to make me want to do it, and there was a bunch of other saddos that wanted it as well, and that's all we did. And when it comes to this game, a lot of the community doesn't understand that kind of dedication to a grind for something so minor. Everybody needs there to be something big and impressive as a reward, I think. Am I wrong in that sort of assumption, or do the majority of this player base complain that there isn't big enough rewards to do stuff?
I think that's just the way people are these days, isn't it? It's the same with work. It's all about time to reward, isn't it, these days?
Yeah.
People are pushed far too hard these days to get things done as quick as possible.
Do you think then, coming full circle, that's the reason we have a resistance weapon? The first tier, the actual resistance weapon is as easy to get as it is. And do you think that might be reflected further when we have the option of doing Bosjar, Southern Front, or that quest line? Because there'll be Eureka or a quest line this time around. Do you reckon it'll be easy enough?
I think the quest line will probably be, the outside will be long, because obviously most people will just go for the one that's quickest. So
which you can zerg, presumably, like Eureka.
Yeah. But if the optional outside of the Southern Forest is going to be quicker, most people just do that and they won't go in the Southern Forest. That's the problem. So it's got to be equal in length, grindy.
But then the people who say that they hate Eureka, if it's not equal, isn't there still going to be a backlash anyway from those people who'd rather do the quest line?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. But you can't make everyone happy these days.
But don't you think they're attempting to try and fulfill that, like trying to make everyone happy by doing two options? But isn't it just basically going to result in more people being upset just in a different way?
I think half of it is future-proofing as well.
That's right, yeah. We've brought that up in previous videos about how, there won't be people in the Bosnian Southern Front in like a year or two time. Well, there shouldn't be anyway, right? Or at least not 100 people at once. This is a 100-player field instance. There will not be 100 people in a year's time on that particular first instance, I don't think. So the quest is a great way for that, but there's other rewards that you're missing out on if you don't do the instance, though. Mounts. How many mounts did we get from Eureka? Like 4 or 5?
4, yeah.
Something like that. From each. And then it was minions.
Is it 5 if you count the Baldessian Arsenal, Ozma?
No, we don't count Baldessian Arsenal. No, that place doesn't exist. What did you say? I've never heard of it. No, that was an excuse to bring out some toxicity in a community for sure.
Yeah.
I had a comment the other week. I was talking about Baldessian, and the guy was like, "What are you talking about? It's still active." And I went and did it the other week. I was like, But for the most part, it's not, though. And it's not a public run dungeon. Okay? The point was in the patch notes, it said public instance, right? Public dungeon.
Yeah.
It's not a public dungeon if you have to go onto Discord, is it?
No. I mean, not everyone uses Discords, and if you're on a console and you don't actually have a computer.
The fact is that there is no way of actually creating a group for it in the game properly. Not at least, well, not for the amount of people you need for it. And certainly you're going to be having a tough time. I mean, I don't know if at the time you ever tried to do Baldessian Arsenal with groups. I think you did.
Once, and then I left and didn't do it again.
So you had to join the Discord server, then you had to be like picked from the group of people, then you had to try and get into the same instance as the other groups, that could take up to 3 hours. And because there was other groups set for time slots, by the time you'd actually got in there, you'd miss your time slot and it was the other group's turn. That's why I never managed to actually do it. We attempted it like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and I gave up.
Yeah, then you got the trolls who would literally kill the attempts.
Yep, or people were literally taunting the fate mobs away, so they would reset, so that you wouldn't have enough time to clear the actual fate to actually get the portal allocation debuff, or even the support fate. So people were making it painful.
I think it's more of a backlash of it saying public dungeon and then it not being public.
Yeah, well, it could be a bit of a way of sort of, boycotting it, I suppose, if you look at it that way. But at the time, it was people just doing it just to mess with people. Yeah, deep down, it didn't. I don't know. I saw it from a perspective of wanting to do the content, trying it, realizing how badly it was implemented and how well it could have been implemented, judging by the fact they've already got stuff like this in the game that you can queue for. It
was a good thought of having like public dungeon where people just roll up and join, but it's just not how the community works, is it? We're too used to instance and queuing.
That's true. Apparently on the Japanese servers it was quite different. Apparently they play very pug-like, so it was kind of like a public dungeon for them. They didn't have apparently they didn't, I don't know if this is believable, but if they didn't have Discord servers and stuff set up for that, it was done with the people in their instance. They would just type and explain everything.
Yeah, well, don't the Japanese the only people who use the raid finder?
If I remember correctly, yeah, that's the main source of clears comes from the pug scene than it does from any static. Statics they exist, but I don't think they're quite as
prevalent.
Yeah, that you could go and join a static, no problem, probably, but there won't be many in comparison to a North American or a European data center. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't imagine just queuing up for a savage dungeon, though.
I don't know how that would even...
Oof.
You see, if that was the norm over here, I don't think we would play the game at that level anymore, because it would be more stress than it already is.
Yeah, especially when you see some of the people who come into the actual normal dungeons. That's
right. So I guess people have different sort of cultural reasons for things, but yeah. Are you looking forward to Eureka 2.0?
Yes, I'll be in there.
All right then. I'm not alone.
We'll be grinding.
We definitely will be getting all of those minions and stuff for videos in the future, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's something to do, and it's something that will definitely pass the time.
Yeah, I think I'll probably do both versions. Probably do my Black Mage in the Southern Forest, and then maybe do the outside optional stuff for my White Mage weapon.
That would be actually quite an interesting sort of video idea, actually, thinking about it. To compare the two. Speaking of comparing the two, so we're getting a Realm Reborn revamp. Does that mean, I can't remember, are they adding the 2.0 stuff to New Game Plus then?
They said they was doing it, but I don't know if it'll be in for 5.3. They didn't specifically state it, did they? But I imagine it's probably near enough done, so maybe some point during the patch. If not, 5.4 should be, I'd imagine.
So if they did bring out New Game Plus and you could play through 2.0 all the way technically until 5 point whatever, right? Would you do it?
I will be doing it.
You will be doing it. Jeez. You see, for me, that sounds like a lot of work. And we talked about this before, like for very little reward, but that really is no reward at all. I still can't get my head around that. But
well, I have all my glamour set up, so I can go through the story of each, with making your character upgrade and.
Oh yeah, you should tell everybody about that. So you how does that work? So you get to, say for instance, you pick the earliest timeline. Do you pick gear relative to what you would be wearing back then, or?
So like my Realm Reborn one is just basically like the survival half slops and a t-shirt as you roll in.
Oh my god!
You're starting Yule in Uldar, Black Mage, and then you progress higher up and you get better weapons and stuff like that. And then you've got a raincoat for the start of Heavensward for the opening cutscene where you're going through the snow, and then you're in Ishgard. And
Are you kidding me? I didn't realize you went to that detail.
No, I've got a picture somewhere.
So, just to let you know, you're essentially RPing without even realizing it.
Yeah, the game, yeah.
That's great. I've not actually ever heard of anybody doing that, like having a glamour set for a period of time and changing it depending on where they get to. It's nuts.
Yeah. What is it? I think I've got 8.
So you got 8 glamours. And then do you change the glamours later on, depending on where you get to, because of the limitations of the slots, or?
No, they're all still there. They're all waiting.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I bet it looks cool though, right? In all those cutscenes.
Yeah, if you run for the cutscenes, yeah. It's the only thing I didn't like about it is you go up and you get really janky gear. In
janky gear? Oh, like mismatch of stuff from dungeons? Or?
You know, like when you started off in a Realm Reborn, you end up in a Colosseum gauntlet and stuff like that.
I can't remember what I was in. I was definitely I can't remember now. Going from a Realm Reborn into Heavensward, I was probably in some just like vendor purchase stuff. I can't remember because I didn't do coil, so I didn't have anything like fancy. Yeah, and the glamour system was kind of.
Yeah. Starting Heavensward and that cutscene where you're walking across the bridge and you're in like a t-shirt and you're thinking.
Well prepared for the coming storm.
Or running around Ishgard in like a pet in like swimwear or something.
Maybe that's a feature they could add in the future. Like instead of having just the glamour like slot thing that we have, like the what's it called, the glamour plate system. Maybe have like the New Game Plus glamour system. So like you have a choice.
Where it automatically glamours you at certain points.
There. Does that interest you?
Well, that would be cool because they do actually re-glamour you in certain points, don't they? For instances and stuff. Solo.
That's right.
Like when you got Crystarium instance where you're in the Crystarium armor. And stuff like that.
And there's a bit where you have to sneak into the Garlean camp, right, in Stormblood.
Yes, and you're in. Although you have to actually equip that gear, don't you?
You do, but it could easily like rework that in, I guess.
That would be cool.
Yeah. That would be such a small change. Well, speech-wise, I don't know how hard that would be to code.
Oh, yeah. Probably a nightmare.
Probably way too much of a budget to be thrown at something minor. Yeah. But, we still don't have glamour dresses that we can use in housing. So,
And then all we need, then get trust dungeons for all of them.
For every dungeon?
Yeah.
So basically, Adventurous Squadron, just not shed. Is that what we're saying here?
Pretty much.
Adventurous Squadron was fun though, up until like Copperbell Hard, where they just got stuck on an elevator.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, and maybe go back and have like the trials being trust.
Maybe
a bit more bit more immersive.
What I said to people before was I would love, I mean, I said it back then, which was, a year or so ago. I was like, one day we'll see the ability to take AI into not just dungeons, but into alliance raids, because people will never be queuing for certain ones in the future. But I don't know. Is that possible? Do you reckon?
Well, it would be possible. I mean, it would definitely push the more solo playstyle they want to accommodate people for storyline, at least.
Is that like, would you agree with the idea that would be the best way to rekindle older content, would be to just use trusts, or to the extent of that have like an army system where you just take the Grand Company and do stuff?
It would, yeah. I mean, it would help if your rank in your Grand Company actually meant something other than a few choice.
I mean,
random...
what are we now? We're captain something, right? Or what? I can't remember.
Captain, yeah, I think captain, yeah.
Captain. Like I mean, at a captain rank, you'd think that you would have at least led some troops at some point.
That's what the Adventurous Squadron is.
Wow. 4 people.
I suppose it's a bit different, isn't it? As you're not technically in the Grand Company as such. There's more, you kind of have a rank, but you don't really go on like training exercises.
It's really strange though. It's like an honorary captain rank. Like, who the hell gets an honorary captain? Oh yeah, you're the honorary captain, but you have no duties. What?
Yeah, I mean, that was the weirdest one, where the Grand Melee in Ishgard, where I'm like a captain of the Immortal Flames, but I'm fighting for Ishgard.
Oh wow, yeah. Now you mention it, yeah.
It's just even weirder because when you fight Robarn, obviously because you're captain of the Immortal Flames, being from Uldar, he calls you captain. So,
oh,
yeah,
I don't remember that. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, which is a bit weird because then you end up fighting him, even though technically you're superior and you're fighting for a different company.
Is that part accessible in New Game Plus?
Yes.
I might have to play through it to see some of these weird perspectives. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a solo instance, isn't it?
Interesting. So do you reckon one day we might see side quests added to that system as well then?
I'd imagine they're working through it, and they just want to get the rest of it. I imagine they'll want the job quests and stuff like that first, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Before side quests.
More important stuff. The job quests have to be revisitable. Some of them are really, really cool.
Yes. I like the White Mage and the Black Mage ones.
Yeah, the White Mage one, obviously, I mean, being a White Mage main, but it was my favourite so far, I think. Apart from the more recent stuff, with the token level 80 quest, oh my god. a lot of the classes, jobs rather, got shafted, I think, at the level 80 sort of thing.
Yeah, Black Mage, you don't even leave Uldar. You run to like 3 places, I think, and that's it.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah.
At least on White Mage, you have to go back to Castrum Oriums or whatever it is, just outside there. You have to seal some rifts and stuff. It's
No, I think I just had to talk to some people. That was it.
I know that Dano said that Dano's our main tank of a static, by the way, for people listening. He mentioned how the Gunbreaker one was basically just recap of what they'd already told you at the start of the expansion. So I was like, oh, that's good then. I think Dancers, I don't know, I've not finished that actually, but I enjoyed the Dancer quest line quite a bit. I thought that was quite different. Lots of nostalgia in that. You should definitely try that if you ever plan on playing it.
I have danced for a long time. I don't think I've touched it, but
it's not bad. You'd probably enjoy it, but it's not as much heavy damage as you're used to being a Black Mage. No, so if you're into big numbers, look elsewhere at that point.
I don't know. Have you seen their quadruple technical finish?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the passers do say otherwise, don't they?
Oh.
So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was Unreal Trials and what you feel about. I mean, can I just give you a quote from one of the comments? Musey Goosey commented, yes, I know, right? They put, with an avatar of a teddy bear, they typed, more reused content, and it's not even permanent trash. This game really needs to stop copying WoW. End quote. Yeah.
Right.
So what do you feel about the fact that there's an Unreal difficulty Shiva? So just a preface for people who don't catch up on the news, Unreal difficulty is essentially a new trial mode difficulty with time limitation, presumably, which means it'll be here one day and then maybe a month down the line they might swap it out with the next one. They mentioned Titan, the old primals to start with, and the first being Shiva. So they said they're reworking the fight so they won't be carbon copies of the original because they didn't want to, and I would bring up the quote here, but basically paraphrasing, Yoshi P didn't want to just up the level and increase the amount of damage and healing, etc. He wanted to rework the fight slightly or whatever to some degree and then make it kind of like a challenge.
Yeah, that's what I got from that. Essentially, the basic principles of the fight will be the same, but mechanics will be different orders and maybe a few new mechanics.
Ooh, new mechanics. We've actually seen a lot of these old primals mechanics used in stuff like Titania and things, so it'll be interesting to see if they actually reverse that. Maybe bring some mechanics from Titania for Shiva, just to scare people.
You could, yeah. I mean, I suppose it might go something like when you fight Ifrit normal, Ifrit hard, and then Ifrit extreme. The basic principles are the same, but you get more of them and then a few extra bits.
So like Unreal Ifrit would just be like 50 nails and a screw in the middle. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? I don't know. I disagree with the point of copying WoW being a negative, even if it was. Right, because I mentioned in a previous video how World of Warcraft, you wouldn't know this, has a feature called time walking, James, where essentially you could do old content at the current level for a limited time and then give you a cosmetic reward at the end. One of the ones that I did was Molten Core, which was, a very, very, very long time ago. When that first came out, and you could do it with the most relevant gear, and it was synchronized, and it wasn't actually that hard, right, in comparison to how it used to be, because originally you used to have like no abilities. the abilities did nothing. The mana cost was ridiculous. You had priests standing there doing nothing because you had to conserve the mana. You couldn't blow it on abilities like that. So you had like a reserve team. It was a 40-player raid, okay? Which is just ridiculous at the end of the day. But the idea then that they might be copying World of Warcraft in regards to the way that they're revisiting, I personally, even if it is a copy, I don't think that's a bad thing, because the more things that they can copy from other games, as games have always done since they first existed, every game is an iteration of something that came previous, right, or something that inspired it. If they can take that formula and make it better in any way, then I think that's massively positive for the game. So to say, I'm fed up of games copying each other, then I guess you don't like any games then. You mention a single game that has never copied anything that's been before, even like down to a mechanic, okay? It doesn't exist.
Oh, God, no. I mean, innovation at this point is just... You could say, you're innovative, but then guaranteed someone's done it before at some point in some obscure game or something.
Yeah, originality is basically not the concept of creating something yourself. The originality is combining things that you might have seen as influences in the past that you might have completely forgotten about to create something new with them, or a new iteration of that, and improve, hopefully, on the original concept. So,
definitely, yeah.
So
I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we decided to set this up with our static, didn't we? Like on the third day or whatever. Depending on if we clear EA test or not in that sort of time frame. But
yeah, I can't wait.
It looks exciting.
Well, even if it is just a rehash, trying to do Shiva now sync to level 50 is just painful.
It is painful because all of the class design and class balance has changed each of the classes in the game to the point now where they're designed to be played at endgame. That's what homogenization and stat squishing and ability squishing and reworks do. They focus on tailoring it to the current content first. That's why Gunbreaker is kind of powerful in the in the older areas, like Palace of the Dead. Who was it? It was Dano again who told me that some of the fastest runs on the speedrun community are Gunbreakers, and I was like, huh? Wasn't it Red Mage? It's like, yeah, it was Red Mage, but now it's Gunbreaker because they're so powerful because of how they were designed, and basically the scaling has failed in some regard in previous content. So I don't know. It's not, you're never going to get the true experience of Shiva at level 50 synced anyway, because the abilities are not going to make any sense.
Not from when it first came out, no.
Yeah. Especially considering some things have been increased in level requirement or decreased in level requirement as well, haven't they?
And a lot of stuff's been removed.
That's true. When it comes to tanks, I mean, you don't need to tell me what was added and removed from tanks. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to them. I'm kind of curious as to what the physical rewards will be, other than just the obvious like minion that they showed.
Well, that depends if that's even a drop and not from the minigame.
That's true. Somebody did mention, I mentioned it was like a large-faced dog. I got corrected quite a bit. Quite a few people said it's actually would do well to watch videos on it. I was like, oh, okay. So apparently it's a Tibetan fox. They have big fat faces. Who'd have known? I suppose it gets cold in places. They gotta get big fat faces to keep them warm. I have no idea.
As long as the cute people will want it, won't they?
That's the rule of minions. That's why, you know, if it was a horrible, ugly minion, no one would try and get it. Well, actually, they would.
Yeah, I can think of a few people.
Yeah, myself included. I was like, oh, look, they've added this, like, dead baby on the floor as a minion. No one likes it. I need it.
Yeah, never use it, but I'll need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is about minions as well is you can always obtain those more. Well, they changed their policy on that. Whereas mounts, good luck collecting all of those.
Oh.
It's like minions you can get from pretty much everywhere that's casually attainable. Even with like the Fae Pup and stuff, they put into just general achievements for the feast, didn't they? Instead of the top ranking. So, but mounts, oh, that's a different ball game. If you're a mount collector and you're watching this, I have just the utmost sympathy for you, honestly. Yeah. Every patch, it's just the Morbol mount. Enjoy Blue Mage.
Yes. Oof, Blue Mage.
So yeah, what else are you excited about? Anything else that was previewed for 5.3?
I was excited for Hildebrand, but they don't advance that one.
No 0.5 Hildebrand. Everybody collectively sighs and cries.
No, it's usually in 5.3, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a 5.3 or like a 0.3, yeah. It's weird. Again, are we going to blame that on budget shift between things, or are we going to blame that on simply they didn't have time to create it?
Yeah, it could possibly be. It's not finished, given they have put a lot into things like ocean fishing and everything like that, and all the new stuff. Maybe they just don't have the budget and the time to do it yet.
I think that the shift from the extra dungeon, at least, to give us stuff like ocean fishing. I'm not sure where all of the budget fits, but if that's what it's resorted in, I think that's a positive change. Because I know you personally might not have that much of an opinion on ocean fishing, but they could easily put in something that you would be interested in, and that creativity is quite fun. I think quite addictive.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Not knowing what's coming next.
Yeah, as opposed to going, well, we get another hard mode dungeon of a dungeon we've already done 1,000,000 times anyway.
Yeah, like Halatali hard. Or
How many times would be the Halatali?
Yeah, like 3 times I think. It's like, oh no, Raban's in trouble again. Oh shucks. Guess where it is? Halatali. Oh god, not again.
That's where the trial's going to be for the end of 5.3.
Yeah. Just like Elidibus is like, now excuse me, so teleport us all to somewhere more comfortable. I'm just like, it's fucking Halatali, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I can imagine. You still think it's going to be Elidibus then?
I personally, because obviously we can talk about this because nobody knows, it's pure speculation. I think the obvious choice is Elidibus, but I also think that if you were to guess it's something other than Elidibus, then it'd be way too disappointing. You know what I mean? Like, you want that, don't you? You kind of want that let's see what his final form is. What does he look like? Because he's both dark and light, right?
Yeah, he's an emissary, isn't he? The balance.
So he'd be something light and dark. I can't even think of anything from Final Fantasy as a series that he could be.
No, although it does. It with Yoshi saying you'd be hard time guessing. It seems pretty obvious for Elidibus, doesn't it?
Yeah, but he's thrown this sort of like spanner before to make people guess when it has been obvious. I mean,
is Shadowbringers at the end of the Ascian story? I can't remember who said it was or not.
no, I think the term was the end of the Shadowbringers story, not necessarily the Ascian story.
Because there's only one Ascian left.
Well, I don't know. Unless there's like some kind of, I don't know. I mean, there was a speculation that we might be fighting a version of ourselves or something. I was reading about that the other day.
I imagine it's going to be something to do with the Warriors of Light.
Yeah. Someone actually mentioned that as a possible trial as well, where you have to fight. Oh, I think there's like 6 of them, isn't there? Like the like what's the name? Ardbert and co.
Oh,
like as an actual team,
yeah,
like a battle of some sort.
That'd be an interesting trial.
Maybe that's, I don't know. If we were to speculate about the story, maybe that's how we've managed to take back the Warrior of Darkness powers to our world, like in the story. Maybe we become the Warrior of Light and Darkness in our world as well, but only if we defeat the remnants of like a trial in every sense of the word. I mean, that's a theory. I think it is too obvious to be Elidibus, but at the same time, I kind of want to kick him in the face a few times. So,
I mean, if you're going completely pointless, you could just have another Xenos trial.
No. Yeah, Xenos at the minute, not sure what on earth he even is. Is he Ascian because of the, I don't know.
Well, they did say that the Echo is a byproduct of Ascian stuff, isn't it? Or something like that. It's similar to what the Ascians are. Like, I think the Ascians have a better version of the Echo, basically, or more control.
We're kind of like at its mercy as well, because we're forced to see flashbacks. We don't choose to see them. So we don't have very much control over it as a Warrior of Light or whatever. So
no, mostly because I imagine if we did, it'd make us far too OP, wouldn't it?
Maybe considering it's May the 4th today, maybe we should speculate that the next expansion will be a training session of us choosing between light and dark, and we'll have someone teaching us in the ways. Maybe.
Well, with our eyes closed.
Yeah, and we have this whole like subplot where we're trying to control the Echo, basically another word for the Force, and we become Echo sensitive, and then we have the ability to manipulate the Echo for either dark or light, and then we get to the retconned part about midichlorians. We just say there's something in our blood, like I don't know.
Yeah, it just gets rid of your character model forever, and now you just go around possessing primals.
Yeah.
Wandering around as Ifrit for a while.
A day in the life of Warrior of Ifrit. Oh dear. That would be interesting. I hope that when this is all over, we get to fight against Hydaelyn. I think that would be my favourite theory at the minute, would be breaking the bonds with her. The end of the game.
It depends on... Really, I mean, is Hydaelyn going to fight us? That's the thing.
I have no idea, but I mean...
Or would Hydaelyn quite literally just lay down her power if Zodiac was in check? Because that's the whole point.
Maybe. It is sort of like the yin-yang thing, right? Because it's not currently balanced.
Yeah, whereas if you keep Zodiac in check by either defeating him indefinitely or rejoining the worlds without killing everyone...
Which seems to be quite a task. I'm sure they'll find a way, though, if that is the plot. Some weird thingy.
I don't see how Hydaelyn in and of themselves would want to keep power. They don't see... From what we've seen in the game, it doesn't look to me as if they're not really that focused on control,
I mean,
just on the task.
Some people have compared the fort of Ramu, for example, because the first time we see Ramu, we know that he's a primal. People are enthralled to him, well, it as an entity, but he is very much sentient and makes a decision to trial us rather than actually fight us proper. So maybe that's how we should look at Hydaelyn, as more of, it is this almighty entity, but it does have that reasoning.
But isn't the whole point of us having a blessing more or less a trial?
Yeah, kinda. But we're already enthralled if that's the case, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, we saw from Lakshmi and stuff like that they can physically enthrall people or not.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the only reason that we've been able to actually deal with all of these other primals is because we're already enthralled. Like, maybe there's like a double booking policy. Maybe you can't book for more and more primal.
But that would require that the echo itself is Hydaelyn's enthrall and not the blessing of light, surely.
Yes. And I don't know what to say in regards to that. It's so much about this game's storyline that I kind of want answers to, but at the same time don't, because if I get the wrong answers, or like answers I think are stupid, it's going to really, really damage my view of the game, I think. So,
yeah, same with all things, isn't it? If you get something you don't like, it kind of takes you out a bit.
Yeah, it's like the recent leaks for The Last of Us 2, for example, talking topically. A lot of people, now they know what's going to happen, don't want to play that game. It's like, well, yeah, that happens. It's kind of like, it's not buyer's remorse, but it's a form of remorse. Some stories you just don't finish because it's better for it to be open-ended. For an MMO that you're going to be playing, even if, for example, I mean, they never will do this because 11 hasn't done it. There'll never be like, if they ever did like a final patch of main storyline, it would be stupid to finish off everything. I mean, you could have your epic battles, you could have some resolution towards some semblance of world peace, but there needs to be something for you to still be fighting on, for people to RPS, for you to feel less like it's the end sort of thing. Otherwise, the world's going to be very boring.
Oh yeah, I mean, they could always finish it by having you basically be teleported back at the end of the final battle, where you get defeated, but then get pulled back through time, and then the world just as the same with no more quests.
Oh my god. Like, so you'd be playing through the game repeatedly on New Game Plus forever and nothing would ever change apart from James's glamour. That's my idea of hell. Absolute hell. Absolute hell. Ah, dear. Are you happy the way the storyline's going?
Yes. I'm intrigued about this fake blessing, or how apparently the blessing is just being able to hear Hydaelyn.
Yes.
Is so people it can be manipulated, which is a bit interesting.
Yeah, it opens a few cans of worms that I hope that they've got the answers to written down somewhere.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see how you've got suddenly hundreds of people all over Northrend believing they're the warriors of light and going out.
I mean, that could just be Elidibus's party trick and not necessarily anybody else's. Could be like Zodiac's like blessing. Maybe they can do stuff like that, like Jedi mind tricks or something. I don't know. Again, back to Star Wars.
Yeah, well, it could literally be that Hydaelyn always calls out. It's just people can't hear it unless certain
quest requirements are met. Yeah, little tick boxes.
Yeah. Well, I guess that his plan is to get all these people believing they're the warriors of light to go out and push darkness back again.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad plan, but
no.
I don't know. How are they going to resolve this whole thing in one patch? That's the question, isn't it? Because you'd think
Oh,
by now we would have some kind of clear route. I really don't think the Crystal Exarch is going to survive this.
no, so far it seems the only way to get everyone back to the first is for him to die.
Yeah, and I think he'll use the Crystal Tower to finish the plan, and he will die as a result of it.
Yeah, quite possibly. Although, interesting what's going to happen with Reen and that.
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering whether she'll come with us, which would be very kind of odd, or if she'll stay behind, and that means, does Fancred stay behind? Because he's searched his whole life for Minfilia, now he's found a different Minfilia, surely he's like wanting to be daddy, right?
Depending on, if he has a choice, if Crystal Exarch dies and everyone automatically gets put back to the body, he's not going to have a choice, is he?
Yeah, but we'd still be able to go through there and visit them, but not in our timeline. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is it going to be an expansion where as soon as you go through that portal, because you'll always be able to go back to Novran, right? Because it's a game place.
Yeah.
Is it going to be as soon as you go through that portal, essentially you're in a place frozen in time, and and you never see a progression of the events there because of what happens in the MSQ? Or are they going to go down the route of, strengthening that rift thing?
They have alluded to the timeless aspect when you first get there in the start of Shadowbringers, where he says at times 1 day on the source could end up years and years on the first. But now we seem to be entering a time of equivalence, as in the times are running particularly the same.
Oh, yeah.
So it could literally be that, like, 1 day on the source could accumulate to, 10 years on the source.
On the first, yeah.
So therefore, every time you go back, it's literally been minutes or hours at most.
You see, I would have personally not thought about that or remembered that, so I'm glad you brought that up. That is a good way of actually filling that checkbox, because people will be asking what the heck's going on with the time difference. But you could just have, well, now things are the way they are. The time is now, I don't know, it's the year 2000 there. It's like 2020 here.
Yeah.
Yes, that could happen. Interesting. And then obviously they'd get away with it because then they wouldn't have to develop content for Northrend in the future.
No.
Which I don't think they really would want to do. Although that's kind of sad at the same time, because you'd probably never see any of those characters again.
But then they also can, given the timeline could literally be shrunken down, because if the timeline's in flux,
yeah,
you could literally have it where it shrinks back down to do the thing and then expands again as a way to cheaply explain why there's certain content there and then suddenly nothing for ages.
If they do that, there's going to be a lot of very quizzed faces. They'll be like, why did you ever come back here? You've made the timeline very worrying. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to 5.3, as you probably already know, but
I'm looking to see who they kill off.
Yeah. There has to be someone that dies at the end of a patch, right? There has to be like an expansion.
Best bet, if they do have a choice, would be Fancred, where he gets trapped in the first and stays.
I guess. I mean, you could even write the whole thing of him looking after Reen in this world, in Novran, and not coming back with us is the equivalent of death anyway.
Oh, his body would die.
Yeah. But I guess his spirit form would last a bit.
Yeah. I suppose Crystal Exarch in his last thing could more or less grant him a physical form.
Unless they all come back, and then it's a terrible story that Reen's stuck there, and Vancred and her have to communicate through a little peephole, like a little teleport hole. Like, I can't come and help you. It's like Romeo and Juliet or something. But he has to witness her age. Like, she ages rapidly through the vision of a portal and just turns to dust.
Oh, nice.
And on that note, there'll be a lot of angry comments. Do you not like Reen? Oh, how can you be so mean?
Well, they are pushing towards having a stay with, Gaia?
Yeah.
Being there.
I mean, she is basically her. darker side, I think, right?
Yeah, so I think they're pushing towards having Reen stay with her new family.
I think we should bring back Gaia and leave Reen there. Just personal opinion. She's way cooler, has nice hair, great dress sense. Yeah. That's the
And a
sort of
big-ass
scion.
hammer.
That's the sort of scion we need. A hammer wielding badass that's not Nero.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
where is Nero actually?
Nero. Good question.
Last time I saw him, he was unconscious in Omega.
Yeah, I think he might be still in Omega. Probably for the best, right? Probably for the best. But yeah.
So here's the thing: when we go back to the source, is Fail going to be able to still communicate?
Oh God, my sapling. I can't get signal here. Sapling. I'm gonna stand on. I'm gonna stand at the top of the crystal tower, see if it increases.
What I really want is Fail and Midgard Soma to pop up at the same time and just argue with each other.
Yeah, I want a romance between Gaia and Nero now, like hammer to hammer. Or, well, I don't know. She'd probably just beat him to death. That would be worth it, actually.
Well,
I'd pay for that. I'd pay more for that. We already pay, so. Ah, dear. That pretty much brings me to the end of what I wanted to discuss. So, anything you want to talk about? You good? You happy? You looking forward to 5.3?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
5.3 and us getting through E8S.
E8S. It's going to be a challenge. It seems all right. Just a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Had a bit of a static rejig, but I think we're actually better off, maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit simpler.
Yeah, now we actually have the melee to fill the melee spot as opposed to a range, so...
Yeah.
People have seen our kill videos that I've been putting up, and I've had a couple of people ask, like, wow, you have an extra range. It's like, yes, we do. Or we did. So,
yes, to accommodate me not moving.
Yes, now you have to move a bit more. How's that going?
It's sad.
Yeah, black mages never move. It's part of the game mechanic, right?
That's what Mana Ward was invented for.
This is true, yeah. This is true. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know this has been a nice long one, but it's rare that I get time to actually sit down with people, especially when usually they're working midweek. So thank you, James, for coming and keeping me company for a bit. Hopefully people enjoyed.
A pleasure.
Hopefully people enjoyed listening to us talk randomness. So we'll find out.
I do.
Oh, yeah, I like it personally, but we'll see. People don't like my playthroughs of games, so heavens knows what's going to happen when I start talking to other people. But we'll see. Leave oofs below if you don't like this. Then I know that. It's
F in the comments for respects.
Yeah, F for respects. Anyway, guys, thank you kindly for watching. If you have any thoughts on the many things we've covered, are you hyped for 5.3? Let us know below, and we might do a follow-up. There might be more James in the future. You never know. But from us, thank you kindly for watching, and we'll see you all next time. That you can say bye if you want to.
See you later.
And that'll do.